Hello and welcome everyone for joining us this morning for the Nonlinear Narrative Masters Programme. I'm Hattie, I'm a former student of Nonlinear Narrative, and I'm just going to briefly explain what the stream is going to cover this morning. So it will be about the whole programme, sort of an overview about the classes that are split into labs, where you learn skills, design theory classes and 2 theory courses. The programme is a 2-year full-time masters, and you can expect to have classes 4 times a week, about half a day each. It varies a little bit. So the first year is more an exploratory year, where you'll get a lot of training and you'll get the opportunity to put these skills into practice and make projects. And then the second year is more self-initiated practice. You'll be doing your thesis and it will come together in one big graduation project. So one thing that we always get asked, and you will if you are a student on this programme too, is when you tell people that you study nonlinear narrative, they're like, what is that? So just to try and give you an idea, it merges investigative methods of journalism, forensics with processing technologies of computer science and visual arts into a contemporary and progressive design approach. So it's sort of a crossroads between theory, practice, investigation and research. And it begins with the entanglement of relations in the global information society, taking that as a starting point in order to identify and interrogate complex socio-political issues and communicate them to a broad audience. So yeah, I'd say that you have to be socially and politically engaged to want to study on this master's. And the department is led by an international team of designers, programmers, filmmakers, artists and thinkers, and you'll have the opportunity to collaborate with governmental and non-governmental institutions and to research and present new forms of narrative. So something we also get asked is who studies on nonlinear narrative, and it's mostly people who come from a graphic design background, but we've also had people who study philosophy, photography, product design, journalism, media and communication, architecture. So I'd say, especially if you haven't studied on a visual degree, you need to be able to demonstrate your ability to be able to design or willingness to learn. And also the other way around, if you've come from a purely visual background, you need to be able to want to engage with the theory on the course. So if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat on Teams, and I'll try and keep an eye on it and we'll answer some of them. And on top of this, we also have many things going on today, and you can find the link to all of them in our bio on @nonlinearnarrative. And there's things like you can have one-on-one talks with tutors, one-on-one talks with students who will be in the school and can take you on a tour of the school. We also have our collective Q&A document where you can ask a question any time of the day and there's students at home answering your questions. And yeah, please join us on YouTube through the link in our bio through our Instagram later in the day, where we'll be screening student films and having more in-depth talks about everything that is nonlinear narrative. So on that note, I'd like to welcome to the stage Lauren Alexander, who is a tutor here on nonlinear narrative, and a first-year student, Yulia. Welcome.
So, thanks, Hattie. Great to be here today, and hopefully we have some new NLN students out there listening to us today. Just to introduce myself quickly, my name is Lauren Alexander, and I've been a teacher at NLN since 2017 when we started the program. I'm joined now by Julia Panova, a first-year student. Do you just quickly want to also say something about yourself?
Yeah, hi. So my background is mainly fine arts, and I think just as Hattie introduced, we were really challenged to engage more theoretically and to think more about political and social context of our work. So this is something new, and this is something that I'm really feeling like I'm challenged this year.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad. So to introduce myself and my background, I'm trained as a graphic designer, but I started my own studio back in 2009, a long time ago, and I work under the name Foundland Collective. So we practice design research and do a lot of work mainly in the artistic field. Since 2015, we've been working more with video, and that for me has been very exciting as a designer, working with narratives and constructing narratives, and also bringing that to the NLN program. So that's a little bit about me. I think you'll notice that a lot of the other tutors are also designers and practitioners in the field. I'm going to take a moment to describe what NLN1 is like a little bit. So of course, students come from all over the world, and they join our very much international community here. Our teaching language is all in English, and it takes a little while for students to also orientate to the courses and to the context here, of course, because everyone comes from diverse backgrounds and diverse disciplines. At the moment, we do all the classes offline, which is really a privilege. So all of our workshops are open, and that is very exciting for us to still be able to do despite the pandemic. To describe to you a little bit the courses in the first year, so you have a combination of design research courses. We will also talk about that a bit more in detail later today, and those are combined with workshops. So just to give a taste of what those workshops are, we have a post-photography workshop by Katrine Korfman, and that is a kind of in-depth look at different photographic methods, yeah, also taking it beyond photography to digital image making. Then we have Juzi Vetters, who is running the Material Research Lab, and that's really looking at the workshops, enabling students the skills to be able to make things in wood, in metal, and all the kind of exciting workshops that we have at KABK. We have coding as well, which is run by Boyd Rotkans and Edwin Jacobs from Render Studio, and also Martin Nevejan, who is a very well-known documentary maker. So we have those workshops that are actually combined together with the design research programs, courses during 1 week of study. So that's just to give a quick look at the different courses that and how that's put together. We also have theory as well for half a day each week, and that is together with Maaike van der Drift and Frederico Campagna. Basically, the first year is a happy overload. We could say that there's a lot of input from all the workshops, from all the design research courses, and all the different teachers that you meet. We hope that students will be able to combine what they learn in the workshop classes with the design research classes that are more, let's say, content heavy. And in this way that it will also like alleviate a bit of the workload and eventually lead towards the graduation project in the second year. The assessments take place twice a year, and usually students have about roughly 5 months to actually prepare their projects during the first year. In the past semester at NLN1, there have been some super exciting guests. So just to give you an idea, we actually had Nicholas Jar, which I'm sure a lot of people know out there. He was a guest as part of our theory workshops. And also Timothy Morton, who's a very well-known writer and theorist. And also I want to hand over to Julia because I'd like to hear your impressions of who was your favorite guest, field trip, what was your favorite exciting stuff of the program?
Well, the names that you just dropped, I was really happy to have those people come into our program. For example, Nicholas Jar, I saw him in completely different light. I think that everyone, like a lot of people know him as a very popular musician who still like has this experimental gist to his practice. But there, when he spoke, he explained so much more of the context to his work, like the research that he does on an archaeological dimension, how he's interested in dead languages and how so many different things feeding what he understands, what he's exploring in his music. So that was really inspiring, and I don't know, just like eye-opening, and kind of had this pull to also kind of like not being afraid of big topics, like very in-depth things to explore. So I was really, really happy. And of course, like Timothy Morton as well, just having this person who is kind of really very often appearing as a reference in many of the projects of my peers, and also something that I draw inspiration from. So yeah, just to see him, just to be able to ask questions directly, to just kind of grasp a person. It was amazing. It was really, really rewarding, I think, and overall inspiring. And I'm glad I had this experience. About the field trips, well, maybe the most memorable thing that I'm going to mention now is actually quite technical, which I enjoyed nevertheless. It was a trip to to the beach in The Hague, that we made within the post-photography lecture lab. It was a drone photography workshop that we did, and we were able to try out the technique and just to be out there, get out there all together. And it was overall a very nice experience, and we made some really nice, beautiful shots that we afterwards used in our design projects. So.
Cool. So you're allowed to use drones on a beach? Just to check with you, or
yes,
were you doing some illegal
there are
business?
Areas,
okay.
Yeah, that are exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And how did you manage the workshops and the more research-heavy projects? Like, how did you find the combination between the two?
It's a balance. It's an equilibrium to maintain, for sure. And I think lots of us, lots from my peers, the people were really balancing and trying hard to find the way to not be overwhelmed, but still not be detached, because yeah, there's so much to miss out on if you really just take a step back from all the things that are offered. Mm-hmm. So yes, I guess it's just a thing that everyone, I think, personally needs to find their way to manage around.
Is there any like particular technical skill that you're really proud of mastering this past semester?
Well, I think one thing that I was kind of surprised my own self with is that I managed to actually implement some tools that I made within the programming into the design project that I was, yeah.
So coding is not that bad. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's even for a person who is complete beginner is very much accessible and possible, and everyone's very willing to help. And I'm really happy that I've been able to actually touch on this, because it was one of the biggest challenges, I think, for me personally.
Yeah, because it's maybe not something that you did before in your previous study.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So everyone was really welcoming and facilitating that I learned. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that's really incredible that you managed to also use that in one of your projects as well. And we saw that from other students, I think, during the assessments. That's really cool. Yeah, so how do you find your student group? How many students are you in the first year again?
We are actually just 10.
Okay.
So it's fairly small. Everyone is coming from different places, and everyone's very different, I think. And it took us some time to get to know each other. And for sure, the fact that we are able to just sit physically here, sit around and go to the workshops and talk, and also get to those field trips, it really helps out with getting to know each other and then working together. And I feel like I'm extremely privileged, because this last semester I've been working with Shoei, who is an extraordinarily talented digital artist. So I've been able to really see personally how is it like someone who's so talented and works within a completely different field. And yeah, how do we do to combine what's best, like within my practice and his practice? So I think I'm benefiting a lot from my peers.
Yeah, how do you experience the group in general? It's quite mixed, right? Everyone comes from different backgrounds.
Yeah. I think we're very eager to help each other out, and overall atmosphere within the course is really good. And I don't know, maybe it's the chance that we have. Maybe it's really an effort that everyone's taking. So yeah, I think it's really not an exaggeration to say that I'm happy and I'm happy with everyone.
Wow. Okay, that's on record. Okay, perfect. And yeah, I think we have to wrap up pretty soon, but I was just wondering, how do you feel about the second year of your studies looking forward? Are you excited for it?
Yes, I think
well, you still have to do the second semester, huh? First
true.
year, and then, but yeah. Because I know that you watched some of the second year presentations, so I was just wondering what your impression was, and yeah, does it seem
well,
like
impression
doable?
is pretty good. It feels like because of the tutors, because what they can kind of like touch upon and what they can help me out with, I can really I feel like I'm looking forward to constructing something that is overall a project that is like coming and strengthened from different sides. And yeah, I think I've got pretty much everything I need to do that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could both talk a bit about the collectives and what that is, because I think it's quite a unique setup for KABK of, I mean, I have some images of them here, but in the way that you're able to display your work and think about it in a more installation kind of sense. Because I know when I studied on graphic design, it would just be, put it in a book, in a portfolio and send it away. So yeah, because I know you had yours recently, so.
Well, I think that the material lab actually that we're having helps a lot with that, with setting up, with thinking through the way of showcasing your work. I think Judy is really helpful with this.
Yeah. That really showed. It was a fantastic experience at the collectives that everyone was managing to set up a mini installation under quite stressful conditions and, with little time to prepare. So that was really impressive to see. And it's a great moment just from a tutor perspective to have all the tutors and the students together in one time instead of everyone in their separate courses. So that's really special, I think, about the program.
Yeah. And I have to say, for me, when I studied as well, I'd never done an installation, a sculpture, a video, an exhibition. So it was like really great for me to learn how to do all of that. And I think like doing the course has helped me be able to try many new things and tackle new things. Like for today, doing a live stream, never would have known how to do that, or never would have thought that was possible.
Yeah, so, exactly. I think it really is a great simulation of how would it be to do a gallery-based practice. So
yeah, just trying it out, doing it and testing it and then doing it again, and then it falls apart and you do it again, right?
Yeah, I remember I did have one disaster. One thing on the sculpture just, but yeah, that happens. But then you learn from all of that as well.
Yeah, all the happenings have their place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hattie, you're the boss.
Yeah. So I was just, if anyone has a question, please write in the Q&A chat.
Oh, I had a question actually for Julia, maybe while we still have her here.
Yes.
Do you have a tip? Somebody coming to The Hague to study their first year, there's housing issues, all kinds of like setting up issues. What's your key tip?
I would say do not be afraid to reach out. Everyone's very helpful. Everyone's very friendly. I personally solved my housing issue through friends, through people that I know here. So I think that's others, for example, like the second years were very welcoming and took some of the first years in to just crash on the couch or also like just subletting their rooms. Everyone's very eager to help. So I think the main key point is just reaching out and asking for help and letting know what is it that you're confronted with. And
so to the department, to NLN,
to us, yes.
Yeah, to the students also. Okay, go direct to the students. Super, thank you.
Okay, let me just, no questions. So thank you very much for joining us on the stage.
Thanks, Hattie, for being a fantastic host.
No worries.
Okay.
And thank you.
Should we just exit?
Yes. So that was all about the first year of the course. If you'd like to know more, if you have any questions later in the day, please go to our Instagram, which hopefully is going to be on the screen, at Nonlinear Narrative. All the links are in the bio for our afternoon stream to have one-on-one talk with a student or a one-on-one talk with a tutor. And we also have a collective Q&A document that we're going to have up there all day. You can ask a question at any time. But for now, we're going to move on to talking about the second year of the programme. And for that, we have a recently graduated student, Sophie, joined by a second year student, Coco. So please, welcome.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Sophie, former student from NLN. I graduated in last July, and I'm gonna discuss today with Coco. Hey. Currently in the year 2, yeah, I think it was really exciting to hear Lauren and Julia talking about this first year. I really recognize what was also said about all the really interesting inputs that you get in the first year, like that it's really this kind of, what did Lauren say, happy overload? That was a nice one. And it was, I feel like the first year is really this moment where you gain a lot of insights on many different techniques, on the theory part, that you really discover many worlds somehow. And to me, the second year felt like this moment where I could narrow down and focus on my own practice, research, interest, and that everything was coming together to give me the opportunity to explore that. So I don't know, how does it feel for you so far? You're now halfway. I believe you just, you're currently finishing to write the thesis and so on. So it's quite a change, right? Or
yeah, I would say I totally agree with you that the first year is more widely spread and you learn all the techniques and all the skills. And then in the second year, I feel it's more about bringing it together and finding kind of your own path and your own way. And I feel it's more self-directed and self-guided. You can also choose the tutors you want to specifically work with, and you can sign up to different tutorials. Like, you still have the chance to talk to all of the tutors, but you can also self-direct. Oh, it might be helpful to talk with this tutor in that week, and this tutor might be helpful at this part of the project. So yeah, it's more self-directed, and at the same time, I also appreciate the feedback moments a lot, because of course you sign up for these tutorials mostly by yourself or in teams of 2 because of the Corona situation. But it's also really nice to just to be with fellow students again, and also to get their input then again, and to kind of merge it all together. I think these feedback moments, they have helped me quite the most, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, I also remember very well for me that there was really like this part where you talk with the tutors, and it's like really taking some steps, but also all the informal discussion that you can have with some fellow students at some point, and that you really support each other in this in some way. And because everyone starts focusing more on their own research, it becomes, you know, who is doing a research close to yours, so that you can exchange source and references. And sometimes you're going to run into a project and you're going to think, oh, that's exactly for this person, I'm going to send it right now. And all this kind of solidarity building up, I think is really also a highlight of mine, actually. I agree there.
Yeah, I think we had that a lot, that we just exchanged sources in between.
Yeah.
And then we also were really lucky that we could still have our atelier spaces in here, like our little studio space. So we would like meet in school, and I think that's quite unique as well. Yeah. And at that point, and still access the workshops. So yeah. I would say these were my highlights.
Maybe that's a good one to mention, actually. I'm not sure we talked about it yet. We're doing the stream from the Nonlinear Narrative studio. So this is the room in which everything happens for the master, meaning that it's in this room that we have the tutors coming to give their class or to have the one-to-one sessions with them. It's also the place from which you can work during the week, and in the Saturdays open as well. And it's really the space for NLN. Like there is no other class happening in there, so you have your desk, you can set up things, you can have posters hanging, you can have a little plant if you want. Like it's our space, let's say. And maybe it's also a good moment to bring a bit about the structure of the second year. So the second year is more about your research, as you probably have understood from now. But the main thing is that the first semester is mostly dedicated to writing your thesis. So that's a moment that is quite theory intense, let's say, because you really put together your thoughts and arguments on one topic that you're interested in, that maybe is a long-lasting interest, maybe it's something that built up during the first year. And it's really the moment that you go in depth in the theory part. And on the side of this, you also have 2 other projects.
Yes.
That you can that you do, that are also a good way to keep making things and exploring things. And that can be a good step towards then the graduation project, which happens in the second semester of the second year. And the second semester of the second year is fully dedicated to the graduation project. There is nothing else. It's all about this. It usually builds up on the thesis, but not necessarily. It's a good help that the thesis is a year before, because then you start this project with really already your ideas and the things you know you want to say, or that you are really into. So yeah, the second semester is a lot about putting together this one personal project, and that's quite an exciting moment, which you will discover soon.
Soon to come.
Yes, of course. Yeah, a roller coaster also, because it gets really intense, and there is everything to think about, and there's also the graduation show at the end of the year, which is yeah, quite a highlight in the master and in the school in overall. Like that's really a moment where you see many beautiful projects coming together, and that all the graduating students are showing well what they've been busy with, and that's quite a festival vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to add for the thesis, I personally feel that it's really well structured, because we have to hand in, it sounds a lot in the beginning, but each month we have to hand in 1 chapter. So the structuring is kind of already done for us, and we're forced to hand in. But this way I felt that was really beneficial, because otherwise with your 2 side projects, or like not side projects, but separate projects, I think it would have just become such an overload. So it was really helpful that each month you just write 1 chapter, and then you build up on that. And of course that also influences then your work, your projects that you're doing at the same time, because you can always benefit from the theory that you are writing and the practice that you're doing. And ideally, yeah, they just influence each other. So it goes kind of hand in hand, and you're thinking, oh, I read about this, maybe I can apply that in my project. Or it doesn't necessarily need to go into each other and be intertwined, but there's always an option. So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but I think it's really helpful. And then also one thing to mention that has changed from last year is that the second years can also still participate in the workshops of the first years. So for me, I still wanted to learn more about coding, creative coding. And then there are a couple of spots for the second years, and you can sign up. And one of my individual projects was with the creative coding tutors with the workshop. And I think it's quite good that you have this freedom to explore for yourself and your own interest, but you still have the guidance somewhere, and still like can ask for practical skills, like to still develop them any further.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The structure of the thesis is really very helpful.
That is so helpful.
Yeah, I remember that it was also when I studied the master, the thesis part was the part I was stressed about the most, I think, because it was also an exercise I was not used to. I never wrote in English before, and I was like, okay, how is this gonna happen? And actually, you really have a very strong support from the 2 theory tutors, so Maaike van der Drift and Federico Campana. both bring different points of view, I think, also, or different skills in there, and that makes it that you really feel supported, and their goal is to really support you into making a good piece of writing, and that felt really good, because that's also where it gives you the opportunity and the space to try things and to see how it works and to get honest feedbacks and yeah.
And I have to say that, so I come from a graphic design background. I've never been that much into writing in my studies. It helped a lot. It really helped a lot. Also the training that you already start writing in the first year, you already have your theory classes, and that has just developed a lot, I would say. And yeah, so I could really see a learning curve in the theory part, which is enormous, that I would have not expected.
Yeah, relatable. And so now that are you done with the writing, or it's a few more days? Is that it?
No, I'm done with the writing. I'm just editing at the moment. So
nice.
We have, I think, 1 more week until we hand in.
Yeah.
And it's all about the editing, and then
nice.
Yeah, working on the.
Are you excited for the transformation of this into a project, or is it something that you're looking forward or stressed about, or that you find like this switch from theory to practice is challenging? I feel. I mean, as my personal experience, it is challenging. I'm wondering how you foresee this coming for now.
So I structured my third semester then, so my first semester in the second year, in a way that I had one project that was always kind of going, already kind of going side by side with the thesis. So that helped a lot. And there were a lot of ideas in my thesis that I could transform into a practical work, I think. But also I'm writing my thesis about embodied design, and looking back now, also looking back at the collectives, I was very much overwhelmed. And I think I just need like 1 more week to let it sit, to let it sink in. And that's also what embodied experience is about, I think, to just chill out for a second and then think about the next step. But it could, I think it could really become something that strongly evolves from the theory. How was that for you? Like, how did you manage that?
I think after writing the thesis, for me, I really needed to go back into making things without necessarily knowing where it was going. My 2 personal projects of the first semester were both linked to the thesis, but I was not sure I wanted to continue either of them, but both were still an option. So I was kind of in this moment of trying to assess how to take this step toward practice. So I started making a lot of things, and in using different techniques, using the Riso printer, the screen printing workshop, then making some illustrations and trying to also just keep on keeping my hands busy so that my brain could switch at some point.
Helps, yeah.
And it took me a while though. It took me, I think, a good month to really try things and see how it was going, and try to let all the thoughts that I've been writing sink a bit. And after that, I went full on and I did not stop anymore. And, it was a quite heavy work, but also very enjoyable, because it really became a project I was very excited about. That was also quite a technical challenge on my side, because I decided that I would do a 3D video when I barely did 3D before. So
I remember that.
So I started with just watching tutorials and learning how to do a donut. For the ones who do Blender over there, you know what I'm talking about. And
So we haven't got much time left, and there's quite a lot of questions coming in the chat.
All right,
let's see how many we're able to answer. So the first I can answer easily. Is this program offered to full-time students, or is there an option to do part-time? The master's is a full-time program. That's the only option there is at the moment.
I think expect to have most of your time taken by this master. It is possible to work part-time next to it, but it is challenging. I think I would put it this way.
Yeah. And what's the age range of students? I was trying to think. I think in my year it ranged from 23 to 33.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
For us, it's a bit younger, I think. The youngest one, she's now, I would say like 23, 22, 23. And the oldest one, maybe 35, something around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think same when we started. So beginning of first year, the youngest one was Justine, and I believe she was 22. And the oldest one was Eleanor, who was 31. 30?
Yeah.
Or,
So
yeah,
I think
30,
you can say
30.
from like early 20s to mid 30s
Mid-30s.
at the moment, but anyone can be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is this course heavier on the design side? What kind of practitioner is often welcomed onto the program? So we were talking a bit at the start, the different disciplines that have been on the course. It is mostly graphic designers that apply to this course. However, there have been people from fine art, journalism, philosophy, product design, computer science.
Yeah. It can go quite broad. The design, you won't have a class on how to design a poster. Let's say it like this. Like if you don't have a visual background, you will have to make some steps by yourself, because it is still an art school and a Master of Arts. So there is some visuals. This being said, the design classes are more research design class. So there are collaborative projects. There are the classes from Linda van Dersen that looks a lot at images archive and the relation between images. So it's more conceptual than there is no technical design class. Let's say the labs are focused on documentary making, creative coding, and the other that we mentioned before. So it's yeah, that's I don't know if that answers the question, but there are more.
So there's a couple of people asking about portfolio tips. What's the most requested skill? I'd say you also write a motivation letter alongside with your application. So I think your portfolio is more for design projects that you've done, visual things, and if you don't have to, I think in the motivation letter, you have the possibility to position yourself as a practitioner and say, this is what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in. And I think what is looked for is a willingness to engage and a passion within socio-political inquiries. But the skills-wise, there's the opportunity to try so many different things on the masters. Like when I started, I'd never made a video or exactly. And now that's like the main thing that I do. So I think this the engagement is an important thing in the master. You have to have a link with social political issues, like you said, and maybe it's good to show this in the project you select in your portfolio. I have the feeling it's not necessarily to show only a super polished, finished project. I guess it's also good to show some process if you have interesting methods or techniques that you like to explore, or if you show a bit your way of thinking. I reckon that's also like interesting.
We also have a student, for example, in my year, he came from a complete branding background.
Yeah, true.
And he had amazing branding projects in his portfolio. But as I understood, his point of view was that he wanted to transform that into something more theoretical. And I think there the motivation letter is just the right place to point that out.
So someone has asked, what kind of academic backgrounds are the tutors interested in when looking for the upcoming students? I'd say
so different. So broad.
Academic wise, I mean, like we've said, we've had a couple of people who've studied philosophy.
International management, one of the first years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, international relations, I think.
I also media history and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I studied that.
I'd say things that are within the humanities.
Yeah.
But again, it's as long as your motivation letter says what it needs to say about you and your interest in the course, and as long as you're able to demonstrate an ability to learn different design skills, if you've done some design or film or coding projects yourself, because you need to submit a portfolio at the same time.
Although I could imagine you being a biologist and being quite interested in one topic in particular and being curious about its entanglements with other issues or something like that could also be an academic background valid.
I also think if anyone studied law, I think that would be an interesting
one. Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of open, and also if you don't have an academic background, I mean, we're a lot of graphic designers as well that came here with no academic per se thing. That also works. So,
and, someone said, is there a possibility for an international exchange? I mean, that not within universities, but I mean, you can open the door to that yourself.
Yep.
I'd say, because you are encouraged to go and collaborate with different organizations, people, professionals.
But also schools. I actually read into that a bit, and they're really helpful and really open to motivate people and to engage people, encourage people to go abroad.
I know there is also the option for after the studies, you can have support for internship abroad and things like this. Yeah. Like there are some fundings that you can have through the school to then expand internationally. Because I can also imagine that the master is quite intense based, so I would have struggled seeing myself living for a semester in the middle in terms of how it goes. But I think also the school supports you for finding ways, and maybe during the breaks.
And two people on my course pre-corona were able to go and do research in Palestine, Eritrea. So
exactly. When you focus on your personal research in the second year, you can totally be in another geographical space if that's your focus and that you have something that you want to investigate there.
So someone's asking, will the new students of NLM be able to have all classes face-to-face, or is a remote semester probable? I'd say in the Netherlands, they've been quite good at keeping universities open. It hasn't all completely been face-to-face, but at the moment you said everything is.
At the moment it's here at university.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial.
Yeah.
So I think, if you have any more questions, let me get the correct information up for you. We have links in the bio of our Instagram at Nonlinear Narrative. We have a collective Q&A document going on all day. There'll be more time for students to answer your questions there. Please ask anything at all. Every question that gets asked is going to remain, so it will form a frequently asked questions sheet. Also, on this Instagram link in the bio, you can sign up for a one-on-one talk with a student who can also show you around the school, or a one-on-one talk with a tutor, or actually we have one alumna as well who's currently doing her PhD. So please sign up with them. You can show them your portfolio or just talk to them in general about the course. And I don't know if you have any closing comments.
No, I think that's it. The deadlines for applying, 1st of March, 1st of May, depending on the there are two possibilities. The earlier the better. Doesn't mean that the latest is not an option either. And I guess that's it.
One last question someone's asked is going back to whether the course is more design or graphics based. Could you mention examples where the final exhibitions were not focused on the graphic design element? I don't know if you can still share the images, but we have some images from the graduation last year, and you can see a range of techniques are used. And if you join our afternoon stream, we can talk more about that as well, but I wouldn't describe it as people making graphic design. It is visual, although we also had, for example, the piece of Lens, which was an audio installation. So there was the visual because, of course, there was also the spatial design, but the focus was on the
on the
Sound experience.
on the sound experience,
Yeah.
for example. So that was totally not graphic design. There was a lot of video documentaries.
Karaoke.
There was a karaoke. It's really, the technique can go really broad. So join us this afternoon. We can talk a bit more about this. Feel free to drop the questions in the Q&A, like collective Q&A. All the links in the bio, just like you said.
Yeah.